Apologies, we have to take Dr. Simon. He's in Australia and he's joining us online. He has been waiting for a long while, given the time difference. This is quite an inconvenience for him to continue to wait online. I appreciate your understanding with all the mix-up. Thank you very much. Dr. Simon Skalicky is the Director, Senior Glaucoma and Cataract Surgeon at Eye Surgery Associates. He'll be talking to us about online visual field tests and its relevance in sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to speak to you all. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. And I know I've spoken to some of you online in the past and worked with many of you, and I really hope to be there in person soon. May I please ask, how am I to advance these slides? Is there someone to advance the slides, or should I share my own slides? How do I do that? If I share my screen, can people see that? Can people see my screen here?
Yes, we can see the screen.
What about people in Nigeria? Can they see the screen? So I'm going to begin talking about online visual field testing, which is a really exciting technological development that we have worked on in Australia, but is already becoming very useful in sub-Saharan Africa. And I want to thank all my colleagues who have worked with me there. So we know that glaucoma prevalence is rising globally. And as you can see, the numbers are rising all around the world, including in Africa. And so the question is, how are we going to have the appropriate tools and technology to deal with this? And as we've heard earlier today, it's all about innovation and about cleverly adopting the right technology that will serve us. Now, can everyone see these slides that are progressing? Oh, there we go. Thank you. We also know that there is a high rate of lack of detection of glaucoma. And in just about every part of the world, the sad story is that most people with glaucoma are undetected. And these numbers are high. And sadly, the number is highest in Africa. So we know that, I mean, everyone here knows this, we have a big problem in Africa, but also around the world, but especially in Africa, that we're not picking up the cases of glaucoma. And everyone here knows that the earlier detection, the better, because if you pick up glaucoma early enough, you can prevent it. So we all have a strong responsibility to try to improve the rates of detection of glaucoma. And how can we do that? Well, let me talk about current perimetry, current visual field testing. We all know it works, and this is an orthoptist in Australia and a patient in Australia performing the testing. But the machines are problematic. We heard earlier today that the machines are few and far between in sub-Saharan Africa. They're expensive, they are big, they're labor intensive, they're clinic based, and when they break down, there's no one to fix them or replace them. And so this is why they are hard to get access to. And this is linked with a high proportion of undetected cases. In comparison, when we move visual field testing perimetry to an online service, this changes the equation, because now with our technology, we can offer visual field testing on any computer or tablet. And this is cheap, accessible, patient-friendly, anywhere, anytime. And that's the advantage. You can see here, this is one of my patients in my clinic doing the test on a computer, but this can be done anywhere around the world, provided there is internet access on any computer, any tablet. So please visit our website, eyeonic.com, eyeonic.com. All you have to do is sign up and you get a free trial. Visual field testing in clinic or at home. And I keep talking about these three words: usability, accessibility, affordability. Because in 2025, that's what we want out of a visual field test. We don't want a big, bulky, expensive machine. We want usability, accessibility, and affordability. And you can see these are our research patients. We have conducted a lot of research around the world to help validate our test, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So here is an example of what our test printout looks like. Now, the first thing I hear from people is, oh, if it's on a computer, it can't be that good. It can't be as good as a standard machine visual field test because it's on a computer. And I would say I disagree. I would say we can do on the computer everything that the standard visual field machines can. 10-2, 24-2, 30-2 testing. We even have binocular license assessment tests like the Estimate test with the drive for driving and also a monocular test for pilots. And this is an example printout that you can see here. We have a gray scale at the bottom left. We have a total deviation and a pattern deviation. We can measure false positives, false negatives, fixation losses, mean deviation, visual index, which is the same as visual field index, and pattern standard deviation. There are lots of advantages once you move visual field testing online. Great healthcare access, a more enjoyable experience for patients, the opportunity of at-home monitoring, the patients are in control of their own data. It's great for clinical care integration, and we heard earlier today the importance of electronic medical records and centralizing of the data and the flow of data and how that really helps delivering scalable and affordable healthcare. A lot of cost saving for patients, for clinicians, for hospitals even. And you can see here, this is one of my patients doing a study that was just accepted in Journal of Current Glaucoma Practice, where he's doing the same patient doing the test on 3 separate computers. And you can see how much they agree with each other, that there is a correlation of 0.96 to 1.0. In other words, it doesn't matter what computer you use or tablet. So this is our tech. Now we've deliberately moved away from recreating a standard white-on-white perimeter. We've thought about how to re-engineer visual field testing so that it'll work on any computer or tablet. And this is what we've come up with. We have a spinning star, which is the fixation target, which is easier to look at than LED light. We have a progress bar that shows how far along the user has done and how much there is to go. And that reduces the anxiety of feeling trapped, not knowing how much longer there is. You can see we have a very pale gray background so that the computer screen is the brightest light in the room. And we have these large flickering contrast-based targets that are more resistant to variations in screen brightness than your standard white-on-white targets. The app measures the size of the screen and tells the user where to sit. So for larger screens, they can sit back, and smaller screens, they sit closer to achieve a consistent viewing angle. And the star moves. So you can see at the start, the star's at the top corner, and it tests one quadrant at a time. These are all the test spots. And then the star will move to maximize the sampling. We find the user's blind spot so that we make sure the user is in the right position, because we might tell the user to sit at 50 centimeters, but they can sit wherever they like. But by finding the blind spot, we know that they're in the right position. And then we use AI to monitor the face via the webcam so that they don't move during the test. The test takes 3 to 5 minutes, and there's a lot of behind the scenes calibration that occurs to achieve consistency.
Your
So
test
here's
is
an
about
example.
to begin.
I hope you can hear this.
Please close your right eye and look at the star at all times. Press space or click the mouse when the target appears.
And this can be translated. It's already been translated into over 20 languages, so it's easy to translate. You can see at the very beginning, we're finding the blind spot. Sorry, if we can just go back to that video, please. And as
Move
well
a
as
little
that,
closer to the screen.
the app will Well, here's a video of someone doing the test in Uganda. Thank you. Yeah, okay. I'll move forward in the interest of time. Thank you. So a lot of people ask us, whether to use a desktop, laptop, or tablet, and the answer is, they all have their advantages. If you're setting one up in your clinic, I think a laptop is easiest because you can adjust the tilt for the user, but any will work well. So as I mentioned before, we have a lot of data, mostly from Australia, but also some from Vietnam, Uganda, and from Nigeria, which I'll show you soon. Firstly, you can see there's a lot of equivalence between the standard test and our Eyeonic test in normal vision, early glaucoma, and moderate glaucoma. We've done a large study of over 220 individuals, and we show that the area under the curve is very similar between our test and all the standard tests for glaucoma. So it's got great diagnostic sensitivity and specificity. When we looked at the user experience of the tests, we found that patients had a strong preference to our test. And when we asked them what they preferred, 84% preferred our test to the standard test. So they found it a more enjoyable experience. And that was confirmed on a 10-item questionnaire. And that was in Australia, but in Vietnam, we had the survey translated into Vietnamese, and we found exactly the same sort of numbers. We published last year in the Journal of Glaucoma the test-retest stability, and it has been very consistent over time. Now, I would argue that hardware for perimetry, I mean, I'm not in Africa now, you're all there, and I'm very conscious of that these are your decisions to make, not mine, obviously, but I would argue that hardware has not been a good solution for perimetry in Africa, but software is. Online works, and that's part of the reason why we've had such a rapid uptake to date. South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, other countries as well, Senegal, Liberia. So a lot of countries have taken up our online test, considering we've only been on the market for 18 months. It's been very pleasing. And it definitely can be used for great glaucoma monitoring. So if we can see the next video, please. This is someone performing the test in Simon Arunga's clinic in Uganda. And you can see how it's not a completely dark room, how there's still light coming in from the windows, but we're able to do a visual field test. I want to present a Nigerian data, and I'm very proud to have collaborated with some fantastic, fine people from Nigeria, including Prof Olawoye, who we heard from earlier. And what a pleasure it was to work with you all and to do some great data, which has been accepted for presentation at the World Glaucoma Congress coming up, and we're currently writing up now to hopefully be accepted in a journal. We ended up collecting data on 385 patients across 10 academic institutes, and you can see that there was really close agreement between the Eyeonic test and the standard test. How when we looked at the correlation, these numbers are really strong. Intraclass correlation of 0.94 and an R of 0.78 for the mean deviation of both tests. So in other words, there was a lot of agreement between the two tests. And you saw before briefly the Bland-Altman plots, just how favorable the agreement between the two tests is. So we have validated this in a large cohort in Nigeria, and it works well. And I'm just excited for the ongoing uptake in Nigeria and across sub-Saharan Africa. I want to briefly mention another study that we have performed in Uganda. Now, the previous study that I showed you in Nigeria was a glaucoma cohort. Well, this was more of a normal cohort with only a few glaucoma patients, or sort of an initial validation study. But you can see the same thing compared to the Humphrey. Our test has really good metrics. I mean, if you take a look here, that in the controls, the average visual field index was 80%, and the average mean deviation was -6 in the controls on the Humphrey machine. While ours, you'd expect the controls to be getting close to 100%, while ours is still a bit lower, but it's much better. So you can see that people are finding our test easier and the numbers are more reliable. So there's plenty of potential uses, public hospitals, optometry practices, private ophthalmology practices, and larger hospitals. And we heard before about the role of fundus AI images for screening of glaucoma, and I think that's a really exciting opportunity. We've actually been speaking to a number of companies that do that sort of thing, and the common thing we hear from them is, we also want to do a visual field test in the field to confirm the findings of the AI fundus image. So I think as a combined technology, they're very powerful, and I'd really like to continue to work in that space. But even things beyond glaucoma, such as emergency departments and neurosurgery, we're currently doing a study with neurosurgeons in Australia who love the idea of not having to send patients to an optometry practice for visual field testing for their pituitary monitoring. So this is where we're up to now. As I said, we've done work in Uganda, Nigeria. We were endorsed by the South African Glaucoma Society. We've completed a pilot in Ethiopia. We've got 3 very large hospitals in India with pilot studies underway. And we've also done some research in children and adults with neuro-ophthalmology in Israel. We've done home monitoring studies in New Zealand and a nationwide pilot in Australia. And we've performed more than 17,000 tests and have 10 research papers published. So someone said before, the future is bright. Thank you for saying that. I agree, the future is bright, because hopefully with the right adoption of the right sort of technologies, we can make a big impact for glaucoma in sub-Saharan Africa. I've got more to show, but I'm conscious of time, so I'll finish there.